So I'm glad you're here to do this. We don't have to be perfect to be here. This is a good illustration, and we don't have we can do these things, all right? Now, is there a reason you chose to participate in this class, in this learning experience? Anybody got a reason?
Yeah,
you do have a reason. I just want you to say it, okay?
I'm just trying to get some tools to make it a little easier, because I'm finding a lot of changes, right? Sometimes it gets tougher than others, and I'm navigating, new territory, and I just want to get some guidance and tools to help with it.
That's wise. Now, and what age are your children?
They're 8 and 6.
Okay, so some of us can identify. Right. Anybody else? Why are you participating in this learning experience? Thank you, Magda.
I want to build a community and learn from other people who have had experiences that I'm going to face. Because every stage is, like, I did the parenting class with you guys probably 4 or 5 years ago, but every stage is different and every child is different. And other people's experiences can help prepare me for what I'm going to face.
You're going to hear me say this more than once through our time together. You and your family is not enough. We need the community of the saints. People laughed when Hillary Clinton wrote a book called It Takes a Village, but it does take more than you. And it is a wise thing. That African proverb is right. And you'll be far better when you learn from others, and you will get insights, and you'll say, that's good, and you'll see how to do that. I can speak from long experience on that, but me, that's wise, what you're wanting to do. Anybody else, why are you in this learning experience? What's your reason for being here? We've all got one.
I know for me, like, we're starting a new phase, a new season of parenting with, Colton being in middle school, and I have a lot of nerves about that, and just what he's going to be exposed to, and then, like, we're just going to have different challenges as our kids are growing, and so just like Amelia said, hearing from other people who've already been through it and tying in biblical principles into things, and I can use, like, all the help and wisdom I can get. So.
It's a statement of humility to say, I can learn from somebody else. That means you don't know it. And that's a good thing. That's wise. And we'll see that your kids are learning all the time. So that we need to be learning too.
Well, and as we were walking up here, Colton said, why are you guys doing a parenting class? You already know how to parent. And I just wanted to, like, laugh. Because I said, well, and I just kind of chuckled, and I'm like, well, you think we know what we're doing.
That's a great line. That's a really good line.
That's not a bad story.
Yeah.
I think that's just it, is like to get more tools in the toolbox, because you just never know which tool you're going to need. Like, I think about that, and every kid is different, right? Every family is different. Every dynamic is different. And the stages change quite a bit, right? So it is really wild, even among a set of parents. Our approach to something's vastly different, right? Because it's like, and we've had those. Can I talk to you for a sec? Let's go in here. And it's like, and then like, you're like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but that's what but this is what I'm trying to do. And you're kind of talking it through, and it's a little bit of like, all right, maybe try this though, or try that. And so that's where your idea, like, the more parents that you kind of get together and you're talking about how to do this and do it well, there's always something. Either it confirms, okay, we're on the right direction on some of these things, and it's hard, but we need to persist. Or I need to adjust, and I don't want to, all the fears that we have, we all share too. Like, no one wants to do that.
Community helps us with process life. It really helps you do that. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why you read a book. A book doesn't. A good book, not any book, but a good book. The author has processed some things, and you're reading what they processed, and that is very, very helpful on that one. Do you guys have a reason for being here? Did I guilt you into it? No.
I think just to kind of piggyback on what I've heard, just adding more tools to the toolbox, and, like, what else can we do? We've never done it before, so like, every day is something new, and whatever we can do to be the best parents, I want to do it.
Okay, 2 children?
3.
3 children?
2.
2 children?
3.
5 children. I would like to add a little bit here. I don't think we ever quit learning, and as I influence, or have an influence, I hope, good influence, I hope, on my grandchildren. They're still, even though you learn something or you went through something, you tend to forget things sometimes. So a good reminder every now and then is not bad. And I can still learn. There are new ways of doing things that come along that sometimes are better than the old ways. So I'm wanting to refresh and relearn or learn new. So
There you go. I'm not going to say anything about learning new tricks anyway, but you do. You do. Yeah.
even old dogs.
Yeah. I don't want to go there. The structure of our time, the 5 hours we will spend together, is that I'm going to share some information that I've either learned by observation, I've learned by reading and applying, or things that I learned in practice as a parent. So I'm going to be sharing that. The stuff that I share with you, and by the way, we're going to have time for questions. We're doing that. We're starting that at the beginning. But the information I share with you is not foolproof. It's not guaranteed to say, oh, if you do this, you're going to get this outcome, because you're not making a product, you're making a child. You're making a person, and that's different. I guarantee you it's delivered with humility, because I've made more than 1 million mistakes. So many, too many to count. It's delivered with empathy, because I really have a compassion for where you are. I know that this is one of the most demanding experiences you can have as being a parent. The responsibility is heavy to be a parent. The bad news is we don't often think about this, and it's also the most rewarding experience that a human being can have. It's absolutely incredible. So I have empathy for that, and I love to enter into that with you. I do it with compassion, because I know you have fears, you have anxieties, you have concerns. I've heard them said right here. And we're worried, and we have burdens for our children. We have burdens for a child if you have one, but you all have more than that. And I do it lastly with enthusiasm. I'm glad to be here. Matter of fact, I'm glad that we don't have a huge group this morning. I wish we had more than a group in some ways, but what I really want to do is be able to have such an interchange that we feel like we can talk and we can learn. I need to always be reminded Jesus didn't always have 12 with him. Sometimes some of them were gone, some of them were around. It didn't bother him to have 3. He worked with Peter, James, and John a lot. It didn't bother him to be around with Matthew. So, we got to get this out of our mind. How many attended? No, it's what do we experience? And that's that's been my prayer for you. And I have prayed, because you registered. I've been praying for each one of your kids by name. I've been praying for you. And I've been praying for us to be able to say, this can be a good experience. The thing I would say, I'm enthusiastic because your potential in here is infinite. It's not just big, it's infinite, because a life touches eternity. And that's so critical. People, even family members in a lineage, they probably won't remember your name in 100 years. They'll remember grandpa, grandma. But in 100 years, but you know what? You'll live through what you have put in their life. It's not a matter that they know who our name is, they know what we did. And that's the thing that we love about Jesus. I can't tell you what he looked like, but I can tell you what he did. And the scriptures tell us what he did. And what he did changed the world. And what you do as a parent will change the arc of somebody's life. It'll help give direction. Because what we're really doing, you're launching kids. And you're launching them. Now, questions are welcome, especially those that lead to discussion. That's really, really important. We may hold a question for a minute if you have it, to get to the best time. And I, as a leader, have the sole proprietorship on that understanding, okay? So why am I doing this class? What's my reason? I ask you a reason. I can't do anything more important for you than this. I really can't. To tell you how to build your kids, to grow your kids, to love your kids, to develop your kids in a healthy way. A way that honors God, a way that honors your family, a way that does good in this world. That's the best thing that I can do. I get questions from all quarters, not just from this church, but I hear people, I had questions this week while I was away with strangers, but we struck up conversations, and they asked about parenting. When they found out I have 5 sons. Oh, how'd you do that? And I mean, they're not kidding when they ask that. Sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. And here's what I find. When I talk to people about this, I hear this hum. There's a hum, and it's called anxiety. There's an anxiousness. There's an anxiety about, am I doing it right? Are they really getting where I think they are? And the anxiety is real. Now, you may feel anxiety. I want to give you a big word. Relax. I don't mean abdicate. I'm not saying abdicate. I'm not saying give up. But you're not performing for anybody else. You're parenting. You're parenting. That parenting means it's not about you. It's not about what people think about your job that you're doing. We're not doing this. It's about your children. The most important thing is this little baby right here. It's this children. It's not about us. You're not doing this to look good. You're not doing this not to be a failure. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it to be effective at guiding your children. And you want to be good at that. If I was preaching, I'd say good at that. We want to be good at that. You want to be able to say, I'm not doing everything, because you can't. You will always have some level of anxiety. But we do what we can do, and we trust the Lord with the rest. Somebody say that's good. I mean, that is good. And you see, what we have to do, what you're doing, you're guiding, you're shaping, you're developing your kids so you can launch them. Okay? You can launch them. Now, by the way, Beth, you just launched Colton into another world when school started. Launch doesn't mean in 18 years or whatever date your kid moves on, say, well, I'm finally launching them. Man, we're launching kids all the time, man. Every new experience is a launch. And if we understand that, we realize they're going into the future that God has for them. That's where we can say, okay, God, I want to trust you on that. I want to say this to you, too, because I was praying for who's in here. And it's easy, when you have more than one child, and all of you do, it's easy sometimes to feel the weight of a particular child. And I mean, you say, well, they may be doing good, but you got the weight of a particular one. And that was true for me. And the one changed sometimes in life, but you have the weight of a particular child. And, when you feel that, I pray for you on that, because there's no saying, and I don't know where the ethnicity comes from. I don't know if it's African or whatever. It sounds like it is to me. But it says a parent is only as happy as their saddest child. And that, there's so much truth to that. So I pray that during this time, whatever you're feeling, God will lift some of that. And He will bless some of that. And you won't walk out of here and say, well, I got that fixed. But you'll walk out of here knowing you have a God that is with you. The divine is around us all the time. Where can I flee from thy presence? David said. If I go even into the hell, you're there. Wherever you are, He's there. And He's not angry at you. He's wanting to love you. He's wanting to help you. He's wanting to support you. So whatever those burdens you feel, we're here as co-learners. Okay? There's nobody here that say, well, I've got the expert thing here. In my 40 plus years in ministry and pastoring, I have sadly seen people leave a church at times because they're either embarrassed over something that their children did, if their son turned out to be gay. And they go like, look, you don't determine that. You're not the parent on that. There's a lot we can talk. Or if somebody has whatever, an alcoholic problem, or if the son goes off the rail, or a daughter goes off there, or an unplanned pregnancy, and people will say, I just can't stay with the people. That means we just avoided the biggest thing you can have, is that's the community of the saints that can walk with us when we have those times.
Yeah.
That's so critical to understand. That's why I stress it and I say it every service. Everybody's welcome here. It doesn't matter how much baggage you have. It doesn't matter if your baggage stinks. You're welcome to come, and you'll find people who can walk with you. That's critical for that to be our heart. If we don't have that, we are not acting as Christ followers. Jesus never ran away from people. He accepted everybody. Did He affirm and approve of everything they did? No. But He accepted every single person. He walked with people. Remember His disciples come back when He's talking to the woman at the well. And they said, you do know what kind of woman this is. You do know who she is. You know why she's here. And why are you talking to her? And that's what they said. Why are you talking to her? You're a guy. She's a gal. Look what kind of gal she is. Jesus, He said, you know what? I got food to eat you guys like know about. And there's a harvest happening. And it's white in the harvest. And you're missing it. And it was that woman that He had spent time with. And she went and she told the people, I'm going to tell you, somebody who told me everything I've ever done. Let's go meet him. Man, she wasn't afraid to bring people. That's incredible. Now, my prayer is that you'll learn that we all carry some scars. We all have wounds. Matter of fact, that one anxiety I guarantee you have, you hope your kids won't turn out to be like you in some ways. You'll go like, I know what I work through, and I don't want that. And by the way, we're going to talk about that in depth later. That's one of the things that will hang you up every single time, because your kid's not you. Your kid is who they are. And matter of fact, they may do just the opposite of what you did. You'll find that to be interesting. I'm going to share some observations I've seen, read, heard, lived out. And so, got a question. Do you have a goal for this 5-week time? Do you have a goal? Yeah, I mean, you gave me a reason you're here, and that may be your goal too. Some of those were goals. But do you have a particular goal? It's okay. We'll just hold that if you want to share. I have a goal. Okay? My wife and I, Becky, we have compiled an aggregate investment of 199 years of parenting. You take 42 plus 41 plus 39 plus 39 plus 36, and you get 199 years of parenting. I hope we have some wisdom to share. Knowledge plus scars equals wisdom. Knowledge plus scars equals wisdom. You can say it backwards too. Wisdom equals knowledge. Wisdom. But Becky and I learned this, absolutely. There is no scriptural pattern for raising your kids. I had somebody ask who could not be here today, they said, can you give us a passage to read that will tell us how to do this so we can study it and know before we walk in? I said, no. There is no way where it says, here's the book on raising your kids. You're not going to find that. You will find, if you read the Bible and read it carefully, there's more trouble families than model families. There's a lot of families that are very dysfunctional in the Bible. And so they made the book because we all learn from one another. Remember that commonality thing? We learn in community. That's part of that. People ask me often, what did you guys do to produce 5 sons? They're pretty good sons. And I do have a few answers on that. We worked as a team. This woman here prayed for her children before she ever had children. I saw her doing it. And that's why when she said, would you please pray that I can bear children, when the doctors had said it's a good possibility we would not, that's one reason I said, yes, I'll gladly do that. She had been praying about it. I never thought about having kids, quite honestly. I mean, I was an only son. I'm an only son. I was the only son for 7 years. Then I had 2 sisters, but they were younger than me. I lived life, and I never knew. I was with her family this week, and all of her siblings were there. And we were around the table, and they were talking about things they did as kids. I never had that experience. Now, I have it with my boys when we're sitting around our table, but as far as me sitting around with my siblings, we don't have that kind of thing. I was with my 2 sisters, and we laughed and we joked, but we really don't have a shared story. I've got it just a couple of times. My sister was a niece, or like a niece when I left home. She was 4 years old, but I've gotten to know her well through Dad's sickness. But the thing that is important, she prayed, and then we did this. We chose to love. We chose to show our kids love. We chose to laugh with our kids. We chose to be transparent, as much as a parent should be transparent, I hope. We lived together, and the biggest thing probably, I threw 1 million balls of different types with my boys. We played together a whole bunch. We talked about Jesus. We didn't force it. We talked about the Word and stuff. I wasted time on my boys. I had friends who said, look, it's Friday, let's go play golf. I said, no, I'm going to go be with my boys. They said, you just waste all your time on your boys. And so I wasted time on my boys. No. Most of all, what Becky and I did is wonderful. We recognized it was the grace of God that protected us from harming our boys' development. Now, we made some decisions that would have hurt our kids. And I'm going to talk about this later. As a parent, you are the central person responsible for what your child gets. You're the central teacher to your child. They are learning from you. And you have to be wise, and there's times you have to do things that some people don't approve of. They think, oh, why are you being this or that? And You know, when Becky and I made a decision, she made a decision, I followed, to do home ed with our kids. Our parents were like, "You're going to ruin your kids." And I said, "Well, you know, that's a chance we'll take here. I think we should." We pulled out of that home ed group later for a reason, because it was harming my kids. Ultimately, I said, "Well, I don't want my kids to learn this. We're going to go another route." I'm responsible, not a school, not a church. And if your kids are in a place where they're learning harmful things that you can control, get them out of there. You're the number one responsible person. And this is not an anti-thing on anything. I'm just saying you need to be wise and listen to your kids and know what's going on. So it takes, you and your family's not enough, it takes a community. Last thing I'd say about that, when Becky and I did home ed, one thing we didn't do was try to isolate our kids. They were fully immersed in youth group at church. We were fully immersed in sports things, because my boys like to play sports, so that's what we did. But the one thing, we were with some parents, and they didn't want their kids to know the world. They wanted to cloister them and keep them away from anything. And that wasn't a healthy way to go. And so I just want to encourage you, you need others. And the participation, interaction you have may be your best takeaway in this class. More than what I say, the interaction, and you may say, "You know what? Now I know Cora," and I didn't have you say your names when you came in, but you know Magda. You'll know. Amelia,
There you go.
no, the masked bandit over here. No, you'll know John or Beth. You know. Anyway, now I want to give you an observation. Observation number one. I'm going to have a bunch of these. We're going to do one today. I think that'll be enough. Okay. When you parent wisely, this is not the first thing here. I'm going to get to it. It means you know something. Okay, when you're parenting wisely. Your first task is not to raise your kids. Here's your first task. Are you ready? Enjoy your kids. Your first task is to enjoy your kids. That doesn't sound spiritual. It's totally spiritual. Listen, your kids know if you enjoy them. They have intricate systems to pick up your spirit. Your kids know. They know if you tolerate them. They know if you love them. They know. They know if you enjoy them. They know when you're not just angry, but past that. They know. Now, here's the thing. They have incredible sensory tools. The spirit of a child is incredible. And here's the thing. They're trying to teach us something there. We are so selfish, we shut off tools because we make preconceived opinions. And we think we know, and all of a sudden we can get in a mess. Because we either become arrogant, or you can also become inferior. You can start thinking yourself less. You think, "I can't do this." Look at that. Listen, read the Spirit and understand your children. The way you approach being a parent, how you think about parenting, deeply shapes your child. Deeply. And it shapes how they see the world. Okay? We're going to dig into that for a minute. Being a parent can be great. It can be fun. It can be exhilarating. It can bring you joy. And you know what? It can also be challenging. It can be tension-producing. It can be difficult. It can be, there's a lot of ways to say this, but I don't know another way to say it. It can be a pain in the, you pick your body choice, okay? But I know what I would say, and it wouldn't be the word posterior. But I would have another word for that. As a matter of fact, pain in the ass, that's just a fun thing to say. It just sounds funny when they just, and sometimes they are. Somebody say yes. I'm glad we're recording this. The pastor said that. Yeah. Now, enjoying your kid starts with this. How you think about being a parent. That's how you think. Now I want to ask you a question. Why did you have kids? Why did you have kids? Not why do people have kids? Why did you have kids? Can anybody answer that? Would you jump in?
Because I want to make the world a better place.
You want to make the world a better place. And so you thought you could produce something that could make the world a better place.
I do.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Man, if you can keep that with your, man, that is tremendous. Well, it's worth it right there. I want to have kids make the world a better place. I wish I'd had that kind of high motive. Anyway, why did you make kids? Why did you have kids?
We were bored.
You were bored. Yeah.
That'll certainly spice it up a bit.
There you go. There you go. Why did you have kids? Now, by the way, in the past, people had kids because they needed more workers on the farm. I know that to be true from the part of the country I'm from. Some of them, earlier than that, they raised enough, they said they had enough boys to make the army so they could protect their tribe because they were afraid of being overrun. Some of them had kids so that they needed to have enough to where they wouldn't die out as a tribe. These are all historical things that go back, but why did we have kids? Now, why did you? Because today, unless there is an unexpected unexpected pregnancy, or an unwanted pregnancy, or when somebody fosters or adopts, when those things happen, that comes from different reasons. Sometimes you adopt or foster because somebody else is having a problem and you're being loving. But why did you have kids? Let's just take just a minute. Why did you have kids? Yeah.
I mean, Drew and I weren't really planning on having Thomas, but I think once we got married, we knew we wanted to have a family. But to be honest, I didn't really know what that was going to be like until we had Thomas. And just the joy that it brought both of us. I think after having him, then we were like, well, let's add to our family, So then we had Violet, and then I think we still were our family's not complete, and then we had Arlo, and now our family is not complete. But to be honest, not having kids before, I don't think we really had a why. I think it was kind of this is society and this is what we do kind of thing. But after having the first one, then I think we kind of found our purpose, and then we were like, well, let's keep adding to our family.
What a great, to make the world a better place. Now, you said something, a critical word that I'm going to come back to in a minute, but she said something in there that was just telling, and it's beautiful. And, the people who try so hard to prepare for parenting, I want to chuckle at them, because until you're thrown into the ring, you really don't know. As a pastor, they say, we premarital counseling. I want to make sure I know everything about, so I'll know about marriage. I say, well, you know what? You'll really learn when you're married. But it's good to read. That's good. But anyway, so great reasons too. Anybody else? Why'd you have kids?
Similar to what she said.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like that's what you do. You get married and then, you have kids. But then when I had kids, then I realized I wanted to give them what I didn't have. So it's like I'm parenting them the way I would have loved to be parented.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I'm just seeing the joy and, the challenges as well in it. And it's just, it's the most beautiful thing I've experienced.
Becky, why'd you have kids?
I think appreciating the value of family. I mean, I came from a family of 5, so I had siblings who grew up, just the family dynamic.
And she means 5 kids. She doesn't just mean 5.
I was one of 5.
Yeah, one of 5 kids.
And then
family
we had
5.
5.
Right. No.
But I think the family dynamic was something that I wanted to carry on.
Okay. Good. I saw something.
I mean, I don't know if you want to share your thoughts, but
Well, I would say, sorry, I'm not trying to cut it off. I think because both of us grew up in families too and had siblings, I think we kind of wanted to carry that along. And it is we weren't opposed to it. Some people do get married and they're we definitely don't want to have kids, but we both, I think, felt yes, we would like to actually have a family. And there's something really beautiful, I think, about creating your own, our own people. some of my DNA with his DNA, and what would that produce, So anyway.
yeah, I mean, it's a deep question that's not entirely a simple answer, but because I think for me, and this is the blessing of sort of generations. I come from a heritage where you talked about they talked about their upbringing, my grandparents, whatever. But it was my context for the best parts of my life. Kind of that simple, you know what I mean? The most core central thing, and it's partly the way that we did it. It's partly a lot of that. There's a lot of God in it. There's a lot of just grace and mercy that things didn't go crazy when they could have at different points. But it's that was central. so central to who we developed, how me and all my brothers did, and the fact that we've been able to, you know, love on each other, fight with each other, go through life, but still family is a central value. So it's like, it's the context for my life, and it's so much. Church family was the same way. I mean, all of it kind of comes out of this concept of community, and it's such a blessing when it's, I think, seen for what it is and it's invested in. So I think that's and I mean, honestly, Amelia, to your point too, it's like I see so many broken families, and the world needs more, you know, of upholding some level of, you know, kind of that value, because we just need it in our society. So the fact that I'm able to invest in our own family, and it was I guess the last thing, it was an outcropping of the love that we shared too, and saying like, we're going to do this and make our own little tribe. You know what I mean? There's part of a bigger one, but this is what we have. It's a gift from the Lord to steward that.
A culture that is unhealthy needs healthiness injected into it. And that, I mean, to go to your point, and all of your points. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. You had kids. This really came out a whole lot. Each one of you said it a different way. There was something in you that demanded expression. There was something in you that wanted to come out. There was something in you that could make the world a better place. There was something in you that would be carrying on the way life is. There was something in course. She said, you know, once we had Thomas and we realized the joy, and there it is right there. We realized the joy. Now, some people are led by the joy, but most of us arrive at the joy. Okay? But that thing that called you beyond, that thing that called you to do an experimental thing, because you'd never had one before. You know, this rocket could blow up. You know, we're launching rockets here. You know, this thing that caused you to create new life. And you did. You created new life. You created Arlo. I mean, that's incredible. Corey, you carried that baby. You had a baby in your body. You had a human in your body. Drew, John, our part is so simple in a person getting pregnant. Their part is so hard. You know, it's so crazy. But here's the thing. It's called joy. That thing in you that says, I got something to share. It's like when you have a great experience and they say, how was your vacation? You say, oh, let me tell you. And, you know, you can sit through too many photo opportunities where people want to show you too many things. But, you know, what they're saying to you, I wish you could experience what I experienced. That's what you're doing when you do that. When you say to somebody, isn't it great? That's an invitation. That's an invitation for you to come into your experience. Joy seeks to come out beyond yourself to where it can be into others and bring them into a greater role. That makes the world a better place. See, joy naturally moves beyond itself. It's not made to be contained. Just the fruit of the Spirit, love, is not made to be contained. Joy, not mean peace. You can't have peace. It's not just inner. It's this peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. All those things are community statements. It's the way we relate to people. Joy wants to move beyond. You've heard me say it in the series that generosity is the engine of the universe and joy is the fuel. Joy is the thing that makes it work. You see, joy sparks a creative, just that impulse in us. That's what it does. When one of my grandkids says, Grandpa, look at this. And they have joy. And all of a sudden they start making, you know, when Colton told me about the car the other day, you know, I made a car. And I was going like, okay. And I was thinking a really weak thing. And I said, can I see this thing? He goes, oh yeah, it's right here. Man, I got it. I mean, it blew me away. I just had the most wonderful time watching what he had made. And he was just thrilled showing me about that. And I went like, that is great. Now, joy is what he was sharing with me. It wasn't the thing. It was, I did something. Your children are expressions of joy. Now, I'm telling you that so you'll remember that. Joy sparks a creative spirit. You don't hoard it. You let it out. That's why you have to remember about your child. Arlo, Drew, remember this. You created him. He's yours. And your child is somebody you created. So therefore, that brings us to the very beginning. Enjoy your child. When God created the world, after every day of creation, He said, it is good. Yeah, and it got so good on the sixth day. It's very good. And then he took a day off to enjoy the creation. And I don't know how he did all that and what that means, but it said that he rested. And rested doesn't mean he slept, because God doesn't get tired. He probably went to every type of animal. He probably said, look at that zebra's coat. That is so different than a horse. But it's so much like it, but a little bit different. Our children are not all alike. They're each one individuals. And you see, with your when you enjoy your children, here's what you're teaching them. You're teaching them stuff about who they are. That's critical, their identity. You're teaching them something about how they got here. Okay? Because they know they came out of joy. And you're teaching them how the whole thing works when you enjoy your child. They learn value. They have value. They learn security. And they learn identity. Yes. That's enjoying your kids. Now, I said kids can be exhilarating, thrilling, wonderful. Now, I used another phrase. Remember, what was that phrase? I said they can be a pain. Remember that? Remember that part? Yeah. Nice pain in the posterior. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Does that resonate with anybody? The kids can be a pain? Okay. It may be temperament. It may be season of life. It may be the fact that your child may not be mentally healthy. It may be the fact that your child has a medical issue. It may be the fact that your child has some type of physical challenge or mental challenge. And that doesn't lower their value. What it means is that's something we have to deal with. Sometimes kids are not that enjoyable. Can you say amen? Yeah. If your child is pushing you to the edge, and if they haven't, they will. And now, by the way, that one can push you to the edge. Okay? If a baby won't sleep at night, that'll take you to the edge. You know what I'm talking about. At that moment, when your child's pushing you to the edge, that's the most important time you can to find something in that child you find enjoyable. Okay? And you may have to be really creative to do that. Even if it seems small and trivial. Find something you enjoy about them. And the reason is why. Here's why. If your child is miserable, do you know what that tells you? They're miserable. If your child's acting miserably, it tells you they're miserable. When a child is sad or is unhappy and acting, it's because they're really unhappy. If they're making you unhappy, when your child is frustrating you, it's telling you your child's frustrated. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. But here's the deal. Happy kids don't act miserable. They really don't. That's such an important thing. The frustrated child is frustrated. Do happy babies cry? Not really. If their needs are met and stuff, look at all. He's just fine. Now, if something goes negative, he can start crying. But I mean, when you're happy, you don't cry. Now, here's the thing. That teen that has an attitude, and by the way, you'll get some, they'll happen. When they're resentful, when they have that biting, snarky attitude, they're a wreck inside. They're hurting. Something's coming out that's weird. They're trying to figure out who they are in the world they live in. And they're trying to adjust. They're trying to figure that out. That ugly tone, it helps you know there's something that needs attention. And so I need to find a way so that I don't give them more agony. When kids are in agony, they don't need the parents to make it more agony. You know, we have to think about that. Whatever it is frustrating you and your child today, most likely the opposite thing will frustrate you later. Now here's the deal. Your baby won't sleep at night. Okay? I'm done. I just wish that kid would sleep. Now you know what? They're going to get to middle school, and you're going to see them in bed at 1:15 in that, not morning, but the afternoon, and you're going to get some initiative, kid. You know, the very thing that bothers you at one point, well, man, it works that way. The 2-year-old with insane energy will one day not have the energy to do any chores. It's going to happen. Mark it down. The 11-year-old who doesn't care what they look like when they walk out of the house will then one day make you late because they're trying to get their hair just right or get the right look. It's so crazy. It's the way it is. You know this is true. A 3-year-old who questions everything, and they just wear you out with questions. One day, your heart will ache because you wish they'd talk to you. So we need to learn to enjoy our children. That doesn't mean we become milquetoast, but whatever annoys you now as a parent about this kid, at one point it's going to be something else. So find a way to enjoy your children and everything. That's why it's such an amazingly heavy, responsible, demanding thing to be a parent. Now, by the way, that's why you need the lightness of joy, and you've got to remember that. Why did we have kids? To express the joy that's really with us that we want to share with the world. That energy, that joy will see you through dark days. If you will remember, why do I enjoy this kid? It's everything. Remember, everything's connected in this world. So it all matters. The difficult work, a strained marriage, a tense relationship with your friends, an issue in a church family or a small group. All these things create issues, and we have to realize the power of joy to fuel us so we don't just quit. That church isn't worth it. That marriage isn't worth it. That relationship's not worth it. That kid's not worth it. No, let the joy fuel you. And I'm saying that not because if you think, I just got to keep on, that's obligation. Joy gives you opportunity to enjoy. And that's a vast difference. That will not wear you out. Obligation will wear you out. I mean, when the pressures are becoming overbearing, you got to get the lunches together, you got to get the food, the transportation issues, the kid don't have the best grades, you're having that appointment. You get an email that you think is going to be a bad email from a teacher, and then it ends up saying your kid's doing great work at school. I hear those stories, and you just go, but we have anxiety. Oh, I'm getting an email from a teacher, and you think it's going to be a bad thing, and say, yeah, your kid's doing great, we're elevating them. And you're going, oh, well, I'm not worried a lot about that. But I mean, that's what I'm talking about, though. If you don't have the joy, and remember, why do we have this kid? It can be totally overwhelming. So what do we do with that kid? Now let me finish here. Got 9 minutes before 10. I'm going to give you a big thing. Okay? Try shifting your heart toward that kid. Whatever they're going through, or toward that experience of that child, whatever that is. And what I mean by that, the child that's driving you nuts, or this activity that's driving you nuts, remember, shift your heart and say, this child is the living embodiment of my joy. And it's got a name. And his name is Violet. Name is Colton. Whoever that is. It's something you brought into the world. You named it. You created it. So what do? I want to give you an idea. Shifting your heart. Get you a prayer. It may be a mantra. It doesn't matter what you call it here. The motto, whatever you say, but do something. And maybe a great prayer is this: Lord, did you show me something about this one, this special, so I can remember the joy? Would you open my eyes to what I haven't seen before? Would you remind me of who this child is? Just remind me, Lord. That's a good mantra. That's a good prayer. Open my eyes. That's a biblical prayer. A good prayer. I can't see what I need to see. Trying this may change. You know what it'll do? It'll change something in you. And when you have a change in you, it's very likely to affect them and produce a change in them. See, when we realign our posture toward each other, something happens. Happens every time. Let me give you one story, you know it. The prodigal son. The prodigal son and his dad have some kind of deal where the son's leaving. And the son says to his dad, I wish you were dead. We know he said that because you don't get your inheritance unless your dad's dead. And his dad said, okay. The son leaves. And all of a sudden, when he's on the skids, he says, my dad's not the guy I thought he was. He treats people well. And here's the beauty. The son goes home. And the dad runs to meet him. He said, I've been praying you'd come home, man. Whew. Listen, when your child's giving you that grief, think of them coming home. That's what you want. Your joy is not to cut something out of them. It's to grow them through what they're in, to where you can come back together. You see, when you realign yourself to your child can realign to you. They know when we're angry. They know when we're frustrated. They know that when we are just really pissed off. They know it. And we've got to be able to say, Daddy was wrong. Would you please forgive me? I forgot the value you have for me. I didn't treat you as a special child, and you are. And I lost it. Would you forgive me? A baby, you can say that to. It doesn't matter, because you're saying it for you. And I want you to be who I need you to be. For me, you make me better. Your child is an expression of something you did. And I don't mean an accident. You said yes. And you said yes to the joy that was in you that would not be repressed. Becky, it could have been repressed in you in a lot of different ways. Doctor said it, all these things your husband didn't want. You know what? But the joy came through. And in me praying for her, what happened for me, I began to want children. And I began to be the happiest guy. Matter of fact, me praying for God, do you want my wife to have children? When God told me one day, I will save your sons and their well-being will be great. When that came to me, that changed my life forever. That's the most important time. I trusted God for material things before. I never trusted God to do something that they say couldn't be done. And man, when it was done, I just said, wow. It put me in another world. And that's because of her. And so, see, community helps us learn how to handle these things. So, we finish. Enjoy your kids. That's observation number one. I find most parents don't really think about enjoying their kids. Every now and again they will. But find a way to do that. And then we'll pick up next week and try to work through about 15 more of these in the next 4 weeks.